Hey guys! As it is a brand new year, I thought that I would once again summarise my year in books by sharing with you my top 5 books that I read in 2015. So, my number 5 book is Implanted by Heather Letto, which is the second book in the Ascension series. It's about a girl called Fran who lives in an underground city after a nuclear bomb makes the surface unsafe. However, she finds out that the government has been lying to everyone and she escapes only to find out that the surface is actually safe. But she must re-enter the city to rescue her best friend, Pete. This book is just everything. It has an amazing plot, amazing characters, and it's just really addicting. Also, I was expecting a really cliche love triangle to happen, but it didn't, and I was so happy. If you hate love triangles as much as I do, then definitely read this book. One thing I do have to say is that the ending of this book is really frustrating, and you'll want to start reading the next one immediately. Number 4 is Paper Towns by John Green. I wanted to read this book before I watched the movie, which I have to say I still haven't seen. Please don't judge me. But I love John Green so much. I've been watching Vlogbrothers for a few years now, and his books are some of the only contemporary YA novels that I actually enjoy reading. And Paper Towns is really good. It's about a boy named Quentin who helps his neighbour Margot pull off an elaborate plan, including breaking into SeaWorld and getting revenge on some of her friends. However, Margot goes missing the next day and Quentin must find out what has happened to her. This book made me wish that I actually had friends so that I could go on a really long road trip with them. However, I do get car sick, so maybe that's not such a good idea after all. This book also gave a really important message that people are always a lot more complex than what you see on the outside, and just because you think you know a person really well doesn't mean that you know everything there is to know about them. Number 3 is The Amazing Book Is Not on Fire by Dan Howell and Phil Lester. Even though I am complete and utter trash for these two, I was highly skeptical when they announced that they were releasing a book. As the majority of their fanbase are under 16, I thought that it was going to be quite childish, and although some of the pages were quite cringy, I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I was going to. It's basically like a biography of their lives, except that it's done in a really fun and interesting way, such as showing entries from Phil's childhood diary and Dan's dream journal. I also loved the really cute manga-style comic strips, and of course the fan fiction that they wrote about themselves. As I only ever tend to read novels, it was a huge change for me to read a book where every page had colourful pictures and a different layout. You can tell just by looking at this book that a lot of effort has gone into it, not just by Dan and Phil, but also by the artists and their editing team. This book would definitely win the prize for the most aesthetically pleasing book I've ever read, but not only is it really colourful and pretty, it's also extremely funny, and anyone who is a fan of their YouTube channels will definitely love this book. Also, the pages feel really nice and it smells really good. Number 2 is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. If I had to choose a book to explain my life, it would be this one. It's about a girl called Kath who's just starting her first year at university, and she's really worried about having to do such a big thing without her twin sister Ren. Although they are attending the same university, Ren decides that she doesn't want Kath as her roommate, and Kath is paired up with a girl called Regan who she's convinced hates her. I really loved this book as it showed fan culture and writing fanfiction in a positive way. I really identified with Kath growing up reading the Simon Snow series and loving it just as much in her late teens, as I'm exactly the same way about Harry Potter. I also loved how accurate her portrayal of having social anxiety was. As someone who suffers from it myself, I always feel as if it's somewhat romanticised in books and TV shows. Having anxiety is not quirky or cute, it's a living nightmare. There was just little things that she did, such as eating in a room instead of going to the cafeteria, which I just really identified with. I also love that although Kath does change throughout the course of the novel, she doesn't just abandon fan culture. Even though her new friends don't really understand why she's so obsessed with Simon Snow or updating her fanfiction, they accept her and don't try to stop her from talking about it, which I loved, because you don't have to have every single thing in common with someone to be their friend. I also loved the rest of the characters, especially Levi. He was a really sweet character and he was always there for Kath when she needed help. It's a really funny and sweet book, so if you haven't read it yet, then I highly suggest you do so. And now, time for my favourite book that I read last year, which is actually another Rainbow Rowell book, which is Carry On. I was actually recommended this by my best friend who has really good taste in books, so I decided to read it and let it take over my life. It's actually connected to Fangirl as it's based around the Simon Snow series that Kath loves. It takes place in Simon's last year at Watford School of Magics, and it revolves around him trying to save the world from the insidious Humdrum, who was destroying the magic in certain areas of the country. I have been searching for years to find a book that I love as much as Harry Potter, and I think Carry On is the closest that I've come so far. I loved all of the characters, especially Baz, Simon's roommate and enemy. Simon constantly trying to convince himself that Baz was evil was hilarious, and I loved watching their relationship completely transform. I also loved that the characters' point of view kept switching round so that we could see each character's thoughts and feelings from their own perspective. I really loved all the plot twists, as I was not expecting a lot of it to happen. It really was nothing like any other fantasy YA book I've read before. I really loved the epilogue, it was so adorable and I was so happy for all the characters. My precious children. If you love Harry Potter, then you need to read this book. I promise you it will help to heal the hole in your heart caused by there being no book 8. And to anyone who has read it, chapter 61, am I right? So, those are my favourite books that I read in 2015. Thank you for watching this video. I've left all the links to the Goodreads pages of all the books I've been talking about down in the description. Also, I made a video similar to this in 2014, so if you haven't seen that, then you can go watch it now by clicking here. Go click it. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.
Where's your dad?